The heroes don't deserve all the attention. Hey, I'm Emily from MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 facts about Disney villains.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
For this list, we're looking at fun and interesting tidbits about Disney's baddies. Let's go!
Let's get ready to rumble!
Number 10. What Scar's real name is. The Lion King.
All the more reason for me to be protective. An elephant graveyard is no place for a young prince. Oops.
The villain in The Lion King is known simply as Scar in the film, and he has a laceration on his face to match the moniker. But have you ever wondered what his real name is? Surely his parents didn't name him Scar.
And here's my little secret.
It turns out his birth name isn't all that much better. He was called Taka, coming from the Swahili word for waist, meaning his mom and dad probably didn't have very high hopes for him. Though it appears to actually be false, it's been widely circulated that Mufasa means king in a language called Manazoto. Whether or not that's true, we can still understand the sibling rivalry. The origin of Scar's name was actually revealed in the Lion King book, A Tale of Two Brothers. Number 9. Hades is partially based on James Woods' Hercules.
How are things in the underworld?
Well, they're just fine. You know, a little dark, a little gloomy, and as always, hey, full of dead people. What are you gonna do?
If you know anything about Greek mythology, you may have been surprised when you saw Hercules for the first time. That's because most people wouldn't have imagined the god of the underworld to be a fast-talking used car salesman type.
Ba-boom. Name is Hades, Lord of the Dead. Hi, how you doing?
But that's just what James Woods' portrayal ended up being. When Woods came into audition, he allegedly surprised the filmmakers with his interpretation of the character, and they went on to craft his lines and dialogue to match the style that Woods had created.
In that whenever I would say lines, I would try to put those extra kind of cartoon gestures that a character like this deserves.
Number 8. Oogie Boogie is an original creation, The Nightmare Before Christmas. More than a decade before The Nightmare Before Christmas was released, Tim Burton was working at Walt Disney Feature Animation as an animator, and in his spare time wrote a poem that told Jack Skellington's story. Disney considered adapting the poem for the screen at the time, but it wouldn't actually happen until many years later.
Well, well, well. What have we here?
And if you read over the initial work, you'll notice that the main antagonist of the film, Oogie Boogie, does not make an appearance. He was only created later, specifically for the movie.
'Cause I'm Mr. Oogie Boogie, and you ain't going nowhere.
Number 7. Cruella de Vil was supposed to make a comeback. 101 Dalmatians.
And poor Roger is your bold and fearless Sir Galahad.
Disney has written a lot of great villains over the years, but many would argue that this one is their very best creation.
I don't care how you kill the little beast, but do it! And do it now!
Cruella de Vil has been frightening children, and let's face it, adults, since her debut in 101 Dalmatians in 1961. But did you know that there was once a possibility that she would be the baddie in another animated Disney flick? Some sketches from the 1970s show that the filmmakers once debated having Miss de Vil be the antagonist in The Rescuers. Admittedly, Madame Medusa isn't nearly as compelling, so this could have been a really great idea. On the other hand, you could also argue that having a different villain helped distinguish the film.
Of course, we have, but we must try harder, mustn't we?
Number 6. The same actor voices Captain Hook and Mr. Darling, Peter Pan.
After all, perhaps we were...
Oh, but Mother, it was such a wonderful adventure.
Most people know that before Peter Pan was a beloved Disney animated classic, it was a novel by J.M. Barrie. But it's a lesser-known fact that Peter's story was originally written as a play. Peter and Wendy premiered on stage in 1904, and in various productions it became standard for Mr. Darling and Captain Hook to be played by the same actor. There's definitely some interesting psychology to be done on that decision. Keeping with tradition, Disney had the same actor, Hans Conried, voice both parts.
You prepare to die!
Live, Peter!
And did you know that Captain Hook is meant to be a sympathetic character? That's why he survives at the end of the story. Number 5. Several villains were drawn by the same animator, Various.
I have decided to make my final wish. I wish for Princess Jasmine to fall desperately in love with me.
If you were to list the top 10 Disney villains of all time, which we've done of course, 3 of the entries would undoubtedly be Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, Jafar from Aladdin, and Scar from The Lion King. Now, what do these 3 have in common? Well, it turns out the supervising animator for all 3 was Andreas Deja. He played a huge role in crafting the characters we know and love to hate today.
I say we kill the beast!
He was also originally the supervising animator for Yzma back when The Emperor's New Groove was known as Kingdom of the Sun. But once the film got its infamous overhaul, Dale Bear took over.
Get your hands off me! We can't have them running off to warn the creature!
Let us out!
Number 4. Mother Gothel had a unique death. Tangled.
Rapunzel, do you even hear yourself? Why would you ask such a ridiculous question? It was you!
If you've seen enough Disney animated movies, you know they can be a tad formulaic, especially when it comes to how their villains are disposed of. Of course, showing any sort of graphic death scene would be too disturbing for little kids, but they have to go. So what's the solution? Have them fall off something really, really tall, it seems. This happens in countless Disney films, but in Tangled, the villain perishes in a fashion that's both routine and wholly unique.
What have you done? What have you done?
She ages in fast-forward speed all in the span of a few seconds. But to make sure audiences understood her fate, she also falls off something really, really tall. Number 3. One of the best villains almost never was. Sleeping Beauty.
Not what? Oh dear, what an awkward situation.
Eleanor Audley is best known for voicing 2 of Disney's most delightfully evil characters, Lady Tremaine, also known as Cinderella's evil stepmother, and Maleficent. But she didn't simply lend her voice. She was also the live-action model that inspired the characters' facial expressions and designs.
A wondrous future lies before you. You, the destined hero of a charming fairy tale come true.
But because of a case of tuberculosis, Audley initially turned down her role in Sleeping Beauty.
Girls, girls, your manners.
She was worried that she was too ill to perform, but in the end it all worked out and Disney villain history was made. Watching this performance today is still spine-chilling. Number 2. Gaston wasn't always the villain. Beauty and the Beast.
Poor Belle. It's a shame about your father.
You know he's not crazy, Gaston.
I might be able to clear up this little misunderstanding.
Okay, this one might actually blow your mind. Even the most hardcore Disney fans may not be aware that there were several versions of the script of 1991's Beauty and the Beast before the final iteration was decided upon.
Did you honestly think she'd want you when she had someone like me?
In an earlier version, the major villain was actually Belle's aunt Marguerite. Not only that, but Belle had older sisters. The dastardly Gaston was more of a co-antagonist who didn't get nearly as much screen time. Also, even the final script underwent some changes after production was completed.
It's over, Beast! Belle is mine!
Gaston was originally meant to say "Time to Die," but the creators felt it was too aggressive and dubbed it with "Belle is mine."
No one says no to Gaston.
Darn right.
Dismissed, rejected, publicly humiliated.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Point that I must emphasize is
You won't get a sniff without me! So prepare for the coup of the century!
Oh, Prince Hans of the Southern Isles.
Princess Anna of Arendelle.
Princess? My lady.
Whoa.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Listen well, all of you.
Number 1. A villain got the first line. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You may think that Disney movies are all about good guys and happily ever afters.
3 cheers for the mighty Hercules!
Oh, yeah! Flowers for everybody! Oh!
In many cases, however, it's the villain who ends up stealing the show. As a matter of fact, if you go all the way back in the Disney catalog, you'll find that the first line spoken in any full-length Disney animated film was by a villain.
Slave in the magic mirror, come from the farthest space. Through wind and darkness I summon thee.
1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs opens with the evil queen, who, fun fact, has a real name, Queen Grimhilda, addressing her magic mirror.
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Kind of a dark way to start the very first Disney movie.
Now, begin thy magic spell.
And double fun fact, most people actually think that it's Mirror Mirror on the Wall, but it's not. Crazy, right? Did you learn something fun from this list? Check out our other great Disney videos here and subscribe so you see more of them in the future.